Hey, what's up, Boneyard family? Do you remember game night? Remember how much fun that was? You stay up late with your friends, your family, play some late night poker, some things like that. Maybe you can't do that anymore. Maybe because you guys are somewhat separated. Maybe your college friends or your military buddies or perhaps the ladies from girls' night have moved out of state. How about reconnecting with our friends from Poker Chill? You download the Poker Chill app. It's very easy to do. It's got built-in video chat, so it's not just some virtual game. You're able to kind of communicate and see your friends. So when you take the pot, you can see the shock on their face. You can host private poker games, no Zoom or computer necessary. You can video chat right on your phone or tablet. A perfect way to hang out remotely with your friends or family. It's as fun and real as live poker, but it's from your phone, so you can do it from the convenience of your own home. Easy, just 3 taps to set this whole thing up. Perfect for both beginners and advanced players. Download now for iPhone and iPad. Get started by downloading the Poker Chill app, and here's the deal. We're going to help you get 5 hours free, completely free, by using promo code Boneyard when you download the Poker Chill app. Check it out today. Bulldog fans, excited to introduce you to our new friends at Vincero. Very excited about this, too. I mean, this is a company that does a great job pumping out the Vincero Collective. Very, very excited about this. You should be too. If you don't know who Vincero is just yet, they're a premium lifestyle brand out of San Diego, right here in the United States of America, carrying watches, sunglasses, and much, much more. Perfect for men and women of any style, any age. Creating exceptionally crafted and ethically made products. That's important in today's time, too. Modern pieces that elevate your look and stand the test of time. And how many times do you go out and you buy something and it's like, I really like these, and the next thing you know, you buy these glasses, and the next thing you know, they're getting kind of wobbly and everything else, and you feel like you've got some old sunglasses and they're just not lasting. That's not the case with Vincero. They're adamant about the process. Design everything in-house. They source their own materials. They produce in small batches and ship right to your home. They do with the planet in mind. Vincero has been carbon neutral since 2019. Investing in renewable energy and forestry. Modern ethical branding with the goal of providing premium lifestyle accessories for the stylish me and you. How about that? Stainless steel, durable silicone, and Italian marble straps. Surgical grade stainless steel casing with Italian marble inlay. It's incredible. Go check them out yourself today. Vincero is offering a special 15% off for Boneyard listeners and free shipping to all of our listeners by using the promo code Boneyard. That's VinceroCollective.com. That's Vincero Collective.com. It's Vincero. That's how you pronounce it, Vincero. But it's spelled Vincero Collective.com/Boneyard. Very, very easy to find. And again, you get that 15% off and free shipping just by being a Boneyard listener. Be sure and check them out today. Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Hump Day edition of the Yard. I'm actually feeling a little bit better. I've been a little bit peaked toward the end of last week. Finally starting to get over it. All this pollen in the air, really makes for a difficult day sometimes. But I hope you guys are good after the weather today. It seems like once a week we're having what's supposed to be a historic weather event. I know it's spring weather, but it does seem like that's something we're dealing with a lot more regularly. Come home last night after the ball game. Hey, we may not have school today. Oh, wow, the weather tomorrow. Well, we did have school today, thankfully. I remember as a kid, we went to school. And that's not, I'm not being critical of anybody, but I'm just saying when we went to school as a kid, when I was a young person, we didn't have to walk uphill both ways and the sun was always in our eyes or anything like that. I'm not that old, but it's just interesting to me. It seems like the last couple of years, we'll close school for sure. Wasn't the case when I was a kid. You went to school. Simple as that. Now, I want to share with you guys too, before we get too deep into the show. You may be familiar with the social media posting that's making the rounds about the Dave Nickel funeral. And may Dave rest in peace. Dave, a good guy. I wanted to share you guys this post with you guys too that was on Reddit from someone who attended the funeral. Now, Mississippi State sent 3 planes, and then Big E drove the bus over. Mississippi State well represented over there, paying their respects to Dave Nickel. a guy that died way too young from cancer. Just one of those things too. It's like, you know these guys. I mean, they come in and out. I won't say that I call them friends, even though I have been friendly with several Mississippi State coaches, former players, and you kind of stay in contact kind of peripherally. And but Dave was a guy, he leaves and you don't really know what's going on. You kind of found out later that he'd been sick for a while. Shortly after he got out there to USC, began to have some issues. And Dave's a guy too that had some health problems prior to that, but he had gotten really thin before he left, and he got out there and it got worse, and they were later diagnosed with cancer and ultimately died, and very, very sad for that. But everybody goes over it, and I wanted to share this with you because I think it's important. A guy by the name of Quinn Dirte, I'm sure that's in some way connection to Joe Dirt or Joe Dirte. Mississippi State fans, the right people are running your program, and I thank you for it. As many of you have probably read, a few weeks ago, USC inside receivers coach Dave Nickel passed away recently. The memorial service for Dave was held yesterday in Plano, Texas. Mississippi State showed out in force. I didn't get all the details, but apparently Dave was good friends with the primary driver of the team bus at State, that's Everett Kennard, and he insisted on driving it from Starkville to Plano for the celebration of life. As I arrived in the parking lot, I saw the bus driving around as it dropped everyone off. Plenty of Bulldogs were in attendance. I had a chance to talk to Coach Leach briefly after the service. I just introduced myself and thanked him for the positive influence he had on Dave's career at Texas Tech, Washington State, and Mississippi State. I was a classmate of Dave in parochial in high school, and a lot of us followed and cheered on his progress from walk-on receiver to student assistant to GA to college assistant at Tech, Baylor, East Carolina, Arizona, Washington State, and Mississippi State. Coach Leach was incredibly gracious and gushed about what a terrific job Dave did for him. Said he figured Dave worked with him for 14 years of his career. Dave's brother Robbie wore a Mississippi State hat and pullover during the reception at the Nickel House following the service and had a funny story about Coach Leach. Dave apparently suffered a mini stroke and it made his eye movement erratic, which meant he struggled to read text on his phone. He would get frustrated and just hand it to Robbie for him to read to him. He would also play his voicemails. He played one from Coach Leach, and Leach would come on and start talking about things going on around him and say he was checking in and if he felt better to give him a holler later. The voicemail had several pauses and a few uhs and ums and some tangential thoughts thrown in, typical Leach. It went on for several minutes. Dave listened to it and said to Robbie, "Now imagine that in meetings for 4 hours a day." Coach Leach called David and checked in on him every single day he was in the hospital and receiving treatment. He has spring practice and recruiting and a million things going on, but he still called in every single day. Say what you want about Leach, but that speaks to who he is as a person. Robbie also told me he never met Coach Leach before today, but he grabbed him in a hug and expressed his condolences. Lincoln Riley and Cliff Kingsbury were also in attendance. There was a large flower arrangement in the shape of a double T, the Texas Tech logo, Dave's alma mater, where he coached for 5 years as a student assistant in GA. Coach Riley and Dave were very close. He spoke at the service, getting choked up a few times while talking about him. He was at the house after, and there were some terrific photos of Dave with Lincoln's daughter, I think it was Sloan, running around at his feet when she was a toddler. Lincoln and his wife Caitlin and USC's administration really went above and beyond in what they did for Dave and his family, and I can't thank them enough. I'm rambling a little and I apologize. The church was filled past capacity. They had to put folding chairs in the lobby and showed the service on closed circuit television. Mississippi State was well represented both by Coach Leach, his assistants, staff, and current former players, and we can't thank you enough. Those are one of those things, too, that, that's the end of the posting. That, nobody did that for any notoriety. They didn't do that and go issue a press release. There was no photo opportunity. There was no media relations release or anything like that. Mississippi State and Coach Mike Leach and your football staff did that because of their love for Dave Nickel. And we talk it all about, we don't have fans, we have family, and we do. And it's interesting, too, that so many people, have shared that posting. And I think, maybe it's important for us to understand, too, that sometimes we forget there are people involved. you get so caught up in the brand and, the maroon and white and things like that. And, you forget that there are people that are responsible for facilitating our athletic endeavors. And there are people that love them that are behind the scenes that we never know about. And their loss is probably 100 times what ours is. Dave Nichols shared the path with us for a little while. And I think that what Mississippi State has done was very important, not just because of the fact that it says a lot about Mississippi State, but it says a lot about Dave Nichols. Not that you would expect Mike Leach and the staff, to pass on the funeral. Certainly not. But I think, again, it just goes to show you how important these things are and how important these people are to us. And it also reminds us the humanity in every bit of this. And I'm told that Everett Kennard wanted the Mississippi State bus to be over there. Didn't have to do that. Wanted to. He really liked Dave Nichols a lot and insisted on bringing the Mississippi State bus over there so that the Dave Nichols family and friends and all the people in his circle of influence would know how important Dave Nichols was to Mississippi State. And I think that is an amazing thing. Wanted to share that with you, the kind of the firsthand account of what took place out there from someone that knew Dave Nichols long before we did. And I think it's important that, again, it just kind of demonstrates, the impact Dave Nichols had on a lot of people. So rest in peace, Dave. And our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that loved Dave. Let's take some time now to thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I got to get in there this week. I didn't get to go last week. It's been busy for your guy. I mean, sometimes I get really busy. I do. We were in Newton Monday night and had a great meal there at the Mexican restaurant. And you folks are kind of fortunate to have such a quality establishment there in your neck of the woods. Reminder, too, I will be signing this weekend at Campus Book Mart. And then if you're coming to the FCA event on Friday at the Mill, I'll be there, too. Be signing there as well. But I got to get some Bulldog Burger Company at some point. Some weeks I kind of look forward to that. Hey, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get this. And, there are some places, well, and you already are getting your order together in your mind before you even make the drive. That's kind of how it is for me and Bulldog Burger Company. I'll get a craving for something on the menu, and the week just isn't complete until I go satisfy that craving. And that's kind of how it is this week. I've been thinking a lot about those Sloppy Joe sliders. I really like that. It's a great lunch portion. Very filling. I always leave feeling better than when I went to Bulldog Burger Company. Now, you can't always say that. There's some restaurants you go and like, it's just okay. It's never just okay at Bulldog Burger Company. That's one of the things I love about it, the consistency. The consistency and the quality of service and the quality of food. Be sure and go check them out. You'll be glad you did. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive right here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and in the central Mississippi area. Lake Harbor Drive. I don't know why. Sometimes I get a brain freeze with that. Lake Harbor Drive. That's where it is. You know where it is. The Lake Harbor Drive location. That's a new one. Great staff, great food. Doing a great job down there. Go by, have the spring rolls as your appetizer. You'll be glad you did. And maybe have a pimentology, add bacon. That's kind of the Boneyard burger of choice. That's when I go get a burger, it's usually what I get. Enjoy that a lot. And then if you can't get that, you're probably missing out a little bit. And I don't care if you like pimento and cheese sandwiches or not. If I can get it out, I don't like them. But I love the pimentology spread. It's fabulous. Add some bacon to it to put a little hair on your chest. You'll be glad you did that. And maybe get that chocolate shake to go. Make it an experience. Make it a night. Enjoy great service, great food at a great price. That's Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, Mississippi State won an intercollegiate college baseball game last night. I guess all college baseball games are intercollegiate. But it did not look like a fun night late. And here's the thing that I would say. The thing that has made Mississippi State baseball maybe a little less enjoyable this year is even in games that we win, it feels like we're constantly chasing the game, that every pitch matters. Like you can never relax in a Mississippi State game. And we've had some games, of course, we'll kind of get after somebody. Sunday we were able to relax a little bit because the game was over. But, last night's one of those games. It's like you grind it out, you grind it out, you grind it out, you grind it out, and you finally have something go right for you. But, it wasn't a great night of baseball for Mississippi State as far as a playing perspective. The result ends up pretty well, but I don't think there's anybody that walked away last night thinking, hey, we're rolling. We're not. We could ill afford to lose that ball game. And this is a quality UAB team. I'm not going to sit here And there's sometimes I read on social media, I can't believe we're struggling with UAB. Hey, listen, guys, Casey Dunn is an outstanding coach. He's brought some Sanford teams to Mississippi State that have absolutely given us fits, and they're going to recruit at a higher level there at UAB. And Casey is a guy that is going to compete. Casey's a bit of an alpha dog, too. I think UAB is going to be one of those mid-major programs that gives somebody some trouble. They're 21-11 right now, and 7-5 in their conference. It's not like this is the typical UAB team that just kind of shows up and goes through the motions. They came here to win a baseball game and nearly did it. And so I'm not going to sit here and prop up an opponent per se, but for those people discounting the UAB Blazer baseball program, that's just a little bit short-sighted and comes off a little bit ignorant. It's a good win for us because every win at this point is important. State now 19-15 on the year, headed into a big weekend series with Auburn. Of course, that'll start this weekend, and we will preview the Auburn series a little bit later in the show. All right, let's jump into it and kind of break down. Right out of the gate, we don't get off to a good start. Pico Khan is our starter. Gets a ground out to short, and then there's this double down the right field line. And right off the bat, it looked like, well, it's going to go foul. And it just kind of dropped in there. It was just like they had some shots that really went their way. There were a couple of 2 or 3 hits of that last night that you just look at and you think, we actually make a pretty good pitch here, and they just get just enough to kind of hit it out there in the no man's land, and it's kind of how this one was. Now it's a double down the right field line. And we get a ground out to third and think, okay, we've got a chance to get out of this thing. And then their leading hitter, and I was awfully impressed. Christian Hall is their designated hitter. That guy's a grinder, man. I don't know what his status is, but if that guy decides to go in the portal, we need to take a swing at him. That guy can really hit the baseball. Very impressed with him. And what does he do? He comes up with a 2-out base hit on an 0-2 count. We catch too much at the plate here. But the reality of it is sometimes you get beat. We got beat right there. It's a 1-0 ball game. We follow it up with a hit by pitch on a 2-2 count. And that's the thing you can't do. You can't add to your own misery. And again, this is a situation here where we're kind of battling here and we're a pitch away from getting out of the inning. You advance the guy, and then Braunschweig comes up and singles through the left side and really hit that ball well. Hall comes around to score. It's a 2-0 ball game, and then Golda grounds out the second at the end, the top half of the first, and we're already chasing the game. Already. It's one thing for a good hitter to beat you, but then you kind of, add to your own misery by, putting another guy on to force the guy along, put him in a scoring position. And give Golda credit, man. Those guys came up and 2 2-out hits, gives them a 2-0 lead. Bottom of the 1, State strikes back here. Yeager pops up to first, and RJ's been rolling. RJ had the huge weekend over the weekend. This was not a good AB. Just kind of got under one, pops up into foul territory, and they get under it for the out. Cam then flies out to center field. And again, we get a 3-1 count here, get a pitch to handle, and just couldn't quite get it. And then Hancock comes in, and I think we're kind of getting the Luke Hancock we expected now. We look the last 2 weeks or so. Luke is a guy now that is beginning to kind of handle things the way that he should. He pulls one into the right field corner down there on a full count, gives State a runner in scoring position, and then LT comes through, a big 2-out base hit, drives Luke in to make it a 2-1 ball game. Then Hunter Hines singles to center field. Now you got runners at first and third. You're thinking, man, let's just get a base hit here, and we got a chance to even this thing up. And then Slade Alford making a start at third base yesterday, which pushed Cameron James to center field. Struck out swinging. And here's the thing that I'll tell you too. I don't think this Cameron James move to center is just a midweek experiment. We talked about on the show on Monday about you probably got to shake some things up. I mean, you've had a couple of guys in there that, we're basically hitting about 225 at short, and we're hitting about 200 at center field when you combine everybody up. And so basically you've got 2 near automatic outs in your order. You got to find a way to eliminate one, and I thought Cameron James would be a part of that, but I thought maybe that meant making a move at shortstop, and more on that later. But I think Cameron James will likely stay in center field for a while. And part of the thing, too, and I read some things, some social media commentary, and a lot of it's not rooted in fact. I don't mind calling that out. I'm not going to mention your names, but people are like, oh, Lamonis got lucky last year. He didn't make any decisions, and that's just foolhardy nonsense. That's being a prisoner of the moment and trying to find a way to be miserable. Guys, we don't win the NAFL championship last year without Cameron James making the move to third. We don't. Cam takes over at third, is able to do things well defensively down the stretch, which opened up the designated hitter spot that allowed Kellum Clark to come in, and maybe you recall he had a couple big home runs in Omaha. Well, that didn't even become a possibility if Cameron James can't handle things at third, and he did. People forget. You slide Cam to third, and then Landon Jordan ultimately ends up leaving the team, and it's one of those things too. It's just what was best for the team. It wasn't best for Landon Jordan. And I don't, that's just kind of the reality of life. We had to get better over there because Cam was struggling defensively at short, so we slotted him at third to keep his bat in the lineup. The next thing you know, Lane Forsythe comes along, and one of the better defensive shortstops we've ever had. And the odd man out was Landon Jordan. And we ended up having some injuries later, and he could have played a little bit more, but he had to make the decision he thought was best for himself. But people forget, too, we didn't make Brad Cumbas the everyday left fielder until late. And Brad's struggling a little bit right now, but we probably don't win the College World Series without Brad. So you got to make moves in season to better your lineup. And I think last night was a move that was important. I do think Cam will probably play center field this weekend. I won't be the least bit surprised. Especially when you see what Lane Forsythe did at the plate last night. Now you begin to think, okay, well, hey, I got Cam James out there that got a couple of big two-out base hits last night, and I got Lane Forsythe who had 4 hits, and then Slade Alford's a guy that we think that, is kind of one of these offensive stars of the future. So making this move, putting Cam in center, and we have played that position by committee, and it's time to kind of get that settled. But I don't think that is going to be a temporary move. I don't, you ride the hot hand for as long as you can, but I think Slade Alford will be in the lineup this weekend against Auburn. All right, top of second, a much better inning for Pico. We give up a leadoff single, and again, one of those things too, just kind of gets down the line there. They sack Bunny McCross, and Mullins grounds out to short, and then Willoughby grounds out to third. So we're getting ground balls here, for the most part. Pico's pitching down. We talk about too, in baseball terms, if you're going to miss down. I think Pico does a good job of not missing up. He kind of understands the concept. He's going to kind of live around, between the belt and the knees, and a lot of times kind of mid-thigh there. We're trying to get under barrels and get guys to beat the ball on the ground. I'm really excited about the future of Pico. But I thought that's when he's on his game is when, kind of like Kendall Graveman was. When you're on top of it, you're able to pitch downhill and get under barrels, you give your defense a chance. It's tough to field line drives that are 10, 15 feet over your head. All right, bottom of second. Kellum Clark lines out to left field. And I really thought Kellum hit the ball hard last night. I think maybe he's on the verge of kind of popping out of this little slump he's been in. I thought he hit the baseball hard last night. Cumbas also hit the baseball hard, pulls one through the left side there to give State a runner. Cumbas then still second. They review the play. Now, the throw beat him, but the throw was to the inside part of the bag. Cumbas goes to the outside. They make a late tag, but Cumbas is already in. They review it. The call is upheld, and there's Brad in scoring position. Then he goes to third on a pass ball. And again, here we are. Now we have a runner at third with less than 2 outs. We need to put a ball in play. Well, we did, and we kind of got a little bit unlucky here. Lane Forsythe actually hits the ball really well, but it's right back to the pitcher, and then Cumbas is just dead to rights right there. He stays in a run down long enough to get Lane around to second. But how many times did it happen last year when we got a runner at third going on contact and we hit it right back to the pitcher? And that's just sometimes how it is. Hit 1 foot the other direction, in either direction, and that thing is maybe going back up the middle, but either way the run is home. So we get the guy in, we get him around, we can't get him in. Just, again, a little bit unlucky there. See, again, less than 2 outs, but you put a ball in play. And that was kind of the issue all weekend, right? Is that we'd get guys in scoring position and then we'd strike out. Even though this didn't yield us a run, it's a good at-bat for Lane Forsythe. Yeager then follows with a pop-up to first base in foul territory. Again, not going to besmirch R.J. Yeager after what he's done, and arguably our best player. Okay, so top of third, we bring in Parker Stinnett. And I was a little worried, not going to lie. His last 2 outings have not been good, and this one didn't get off to a great start either. Gives up a home run down left field line to push UAB ahead 3-1, the first hitter he sees. And then you've got Christian Hall coming up, and you get down 2-0, and then, give Foxhall some credit. He's out there. And I thought Parker his body language wasn't really good the early part of this at bat. But after Fox went out and talked to him, I thought he really settled in. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to put him back on the weekend, and Chris Simona said last night, no, Parker's off the weekend. But at some point, we're going to need him to get outs for us. At some point. So it's like, we're done with him. You can't be. You simply can't be. You got to hope he works through it, and maybe that's in the midweek. Maybe that's in a weekend game, maybe perhaps, or we just trying to get it over with. I don't know. But this guy still has a role on this team, and listen, he's shown at times that he can be very effective. He's just been incredibly inconsistent. But he battles back here and immediately evens the count at 2-2. And looks like you maybe not be able to finish him, a couple foul balls off, and then he gets him to ground out the short. I thought it was big. It's their best hitter, and he wins that battle. And he strikes out Floyd swinging and then gets Braunschweig out at first. He ground ball to first, and they toss it to Parker. And so you had the home run, you got behind their best hitter, but then we settle in there, and no further damage there. Of course, they've increased the lead, but I thought Parker had every chance to fold right there, and he didn't. All right, bottom of third. Not a great inning for us, but, again, we're putting the ball in play. That's the thing that, even in non-productive innings, you look at it and say, you know what, at least we're barreling some things up. Cam James flies out to left. Pretty lengthy at bat there. Hancock lines out to right. That's another at bat that goes 5 pitches. Tanner then singles to left on a 5-pitch at bat. Then Hunter Hines strikes out swinging on a full count here. But, we're putting the ball in play here for the most part, and we're also getting deeper in the counts. All right, top of 4, Parker Sinnett with a great inning here. We get a ground out to third, then Hunter flies out down the line and left, and then Bugs grounds out to second. Pretty efficient inning. Only had the one deeper count, and that was to Hunter, and that was a 3-1 count. But we're able to get it. We didn't give in to him, and we got him to fly out. So, again, a good inning there for Parker Sinnett. All right, bottom of 4, State finally starts piecing some things together here. Slade offered a great at-bat right here, a great at-bat. He gets down 0-2, works the count full, and then he knocks the ball right back up the middle. Very well-hit baseball. And now we've got a leadoff runner. And then we take second on the pass ball, so now here we are with a runner in scoring position with less than 2 outs. Nobody's out at this point. And then Kellum Clark, 3-0 count, and I'll be honest with you, when you've got a guy up there, I know we're trying to get a guy going. I'm not swinging 3-0. With a guy that has kind of struggled here as of late with strikeouts, maybe that walk and kind of advancing the lineup is good. Not to mention the fact that you're down 3-1 in the middle innings. They green lighted him, and then he pops up to the catcher. The only time I thought he didn't hit the baseball really hard. But I would not have green lighted him. I don't really fault him for that. I know 3-0, you're thinking you're going to get me over fastball. Maybe he can hammer it and tie the game. I just think at this point right now, with the way Kellum has kind of been a little bit up and down, I might take that, get a strike right there, especially with the runner at second. Just my opinion. Cumbus then K's swinging was not a good at bat. It was not a good at bat, and Brad is kind of struggling at times. I know he can run into one, but I don't think Brad's seeing the baseball real well right now. He had the big hit earlier in the ball game. This was not a good at bat. Lane Forsythe comes up and singles to short, hits one deep in the hole there at 6 hole, and they weren't able to do anything with it. And Alford takes third. Yeager then singles to left center, really hit the baseball well. And then the run comes in to score, and then because the throw goes into third, trying to cut down Lane, Yeager, good base running on the backside, takes the bag at second. So now all of a sudden it's like, hey, you got 2 runners in scoring position. You kind of got these guys on a rope. Cam James is coming up, and they plunk him. Now we're bases loaded. They make a change here. And I really thought, listen, and you hate to even suggest it, but, Green was really filthy. I mean, he was that sidearm guy, kind of a submarine type, but, man, that fastball was really tight. I mean, it really is. Sometimes you see a little bit of a loop in it. When you got a guy dropping down, you see kind of this, they're able to see it up a little bit, and it's tough to keep people off of it. I thought his fastball, the trajectory of it was really good. And then all of a sudden, the catcher kind of goes out there, and there was no need to go out there. There just wasn't. There was no need to go out there. And next thing you know, the coaches come out, the infield comes in, and I wonder if he wasn't injured. I wonder if he didn't hurt himself, and you hope it's not seriously. But it kind of looked and felt that way. I mean, this is a guy too that was pitching pretty well, other than the hit by pitch. And again, we've been there before too, but something just didn't look right. And he's got a 1-2 count on Luke Hancock, and they pull him. And then the guy comes in and throws a strike to Luke. And Luke, I checked with our TrackMan associates. It was a strike. It didn't look like it or feel like it, and maybe we're just surprised to see Luke strike out like that. But it was a strike. But my hope is that Green's okay. But again, State gets a run, and it's a 3-2 ball game, and we should have been able to tie it here, but unable to do so. All right, top of 5, we bring in Drew Talley. Well, it's been a while since we've seen Drew. I'm still a Drew Talley fan. I think this is a guy that can help us, and I thought he did a good job last night. Talley gets Mullins, their leadoff hitter, to strike out looking, gets a ground out from Willoughby to short, and then gets Sears to strike out swinging. So a 1-2-3 inning with a pair of Ks there. That's the way to kind of get back in the rotation there, Drew. Good job there. Bottom of 5, State, nothing going here. Logan Tanner flies out to right field. For a second, I thought it might get down. We get down 0-2. And to me, the lesson here is we're going the other way here. Earlier in the year, and I said it, I thought LT was taking some selfish swings. In the last month, I don't think it's been the case. And this is another example of that. Logan's a guy that can take that slider and dump it into right field. And I thought this is a pretty good sign here. When you start seeing LT go the other way a little more, he's seeing the baseball well. And I think you're about to see him go on a pretty good run too. Not that he's been bad. But when he's using all fields, he's at his best. Heinzen pops up to short, basically short left field there. And then Slade Alford, we get a ground out here, but again, it's a good at bat for the kid. Ends up being a full count. He gets down 1-2 in the count. He works it back up, and then we ground out there. But, I thought Slade Alford acquitted himself pretty well last night. Defensively, he was outstanding. He made one play. It was kind of Brooks Robinson-esque. You see it like Lamona said, you see a kid that big, you don't realize how quick and agile he is. That can really play. Now, he was kind of the talk of fall baseball from some of your regulars, saying, hey, this Slade Alford kid can really play. Even Cam James said, hey, defensively, this guy's a dominant force over there. I think we saw it last night. All right, top of 6. Christian Hall doubles to right center, and all of a sudden it feels like we're in some trouble. But Drew Talley retires the next 3 hitters. He gets a strikeout of Floyd, so there's a non-productive out for you. Non-productive out. So now you don't have a guy at third base with less than 2 outs. Brunswick then lines out to right field. The runner holds, and then Golda pops up to first base. The inning's over. But I go back to that punch-out right there. I mean, it changes the complexion of the inning. You got a runner in scoring position, and he's not able to advance. And that's what everybody wants, right? Give me a ground ball to the right side, or give me a fly ball, routine fly ball to the runner tag and go to third. That way I've got a variety of ways to get him home. I can score without the benefit of another hit. But because Drew is able to get a punch out here on 3 pitches, it really changes the complexion of the inning. So good effort there from Drew. They bring in this Aiden Mosa kid, and I am really impressed with this guy. This guy's throwing 95, 96. Got about a 20-mile differential between the changeup. I thought this guy was really, really good. Now, we got to him, and I think a lot of it, too, is because we like velo. We kind of jumped on some things here, but he was filthy. I mean, he was absolutely filthy. And I'm beginning to think to myself, man, if this guy's thinking about transfer, we need to be on him. All right, Clark grounds out to second, but this ball is an absolute rocket. It's a great play by the second baseman, too. He makes this big sliding catch on the outfield grass there and throws Kellum out. But, again, we hit the baseball well here. And, again, I think you're beginning to see the signs of Kellum Clark getting ready to get going again. I really believe that. Cumba strikes out swinging, and, again, I thought this was his worst at bat of the night. And, we take a fastball, then we take a breaking ball, then we swing at a changeup out of the zone there. And maybe that's on Goat. Maybe that's on Brad. Maybe we didn't have a good read on the kid. Maybe Brad just didn't execute. I don't know. But it was not a good AB. And again, that's the thing with Brad. I mean, you're going to have some ABs up there where he's just so big and strong that, even when maybe he didn't guess right on a pitch, he can get a bat on it and kind of force the thing into the outfield and get a base hit. But this wasn't it. And again, Brad's kind of scuffling a little bit. I still got a lot of confidence in Brad. But, He's just not really seeing the baseball real well right now. All right, so 2 outs, and then Forsythe rips a single back up the middle to extend the inning. Nice 2-out base hit here, and leads to a run for us. Yeager's then hit by the pitch, and then Cam James on a 2-2 count pulls a double inside the bag at third. Forsythe scores. Yeager goes to third, and now all of a sudden you've tied the game, and you've got two runners in scoring position with Luke Hancock up there. Luke's not able to come through here, and that's the thing you think about in these situations. When it starts to be closing time, this is when we need the big hit. So Cam gets it done for us. If Luke gets a hit right here, it's probably a different ball game. It's a different conversation today. Even though we end up winning the ball game, it's like these are the hits we got to get. So you give State credit for 2 of the 2-out hits in the inning. Forsythe, of course, gets a hit, and then Cam gets a hit. I mean, not everybody's going to be able to hit with 2 outs, but we were able to kind of string some things together. A 2-out rally there to tie the ball game. That's big. All right, Brooks Auger comes in for the 7th. I remain a Brooks Auger fan. I know that he didn't have a great outing over the weekend, but Brooks is a guy that we know that we can count on. 1-2-3 inning for him. He gets Hunter to strike out swinging, gets Bugs to fly out the second, and then Mullen strikes out swinging. So 1-2-3 there for Brooks. Bottom of 7, they make a pitching change, and maybe they're going to throw Moser this weekend. I know we put together a couple of hits against him late, but that kid's got some stuff. And then Sewell comes in and gets 3 ground outs, really getting under some barrels here. LT grounds out to third on the very first pitch. It was a close play, it really was. Nice play by the third baseman there. And then Hines grounds out to second, Alford and grounds out to the pitcher. Yes, putting the ball in play, but I didn't get anything out of the infield in that inning. Top of 8, we bring in Jackson Fristo. Now, Jackson has kind of been feast or famine. He had a really good week. He pitched really well at Memphis and pitched well at Arkansas, and then, had the blown save against LSU. It's kind of like the kid that has a car wreck, right? It's like, oh, well, you have a car wreck, whatever, and then, as soon as you can get him back in a car, you need to do it. Because if not, the mental aspect of this kind of begins to kind of balloon a little bit and cause all this anxiety. You got to get back on the horse, man. That's just how life works. Got him back out there. Really good inning here in the 8th. Got a strikeout of Willoughby. Sears flies out to left, and Hall grounds out to second. That's a big out, too. Again, that's kind of a pro hitter right there. All right, bottom of 8. We have a chance here. We have a chance to kind of make some things happen. Kellum Clark flies out to center field. A very lengthy at bat. Very, very lengthy. It is a 1-2 count, and we end up working it full. Fouled off a couple of 2-2 pitches to kind of get the pitch we want. We end up flying out to center, not hating on the at bat at all, not at all. I mean, he had seen basically everything that he could see, and I just didn't think that he was going to be able to finish Kellum, and he wasn't. He was, Kellum actually hit the baseball really well here, just got under it a little bit. Then they walk Downs. Aaron Downs pinch hits for Brad, and we get a walk there. So now all of a sudden you got the go-ahead run on base. You start thinking, man, if we can come through here and just close it out in the 9th, we can go home happy. Well, they make a pitching change. Bray comes in to pinch run for Aaron Downs, and then lo and behold, it's Lane Forsythe coming up again. Single back up the box. Sends Bray to second. Yeager flies out to right, and we run the double steal here to get 2 men in scoring position, remove the possibility of a force anywhere but first, and then Cam grounds out to the shortstop. Again, a chance for us here, and I'm not going to hate on Cameron James. He came up, 3 times with runners in scoring positions and came through twice. This time he didn't. Nobody hits 1,000, but again, this is a missed opportunity for us. All right, so top of 9. We go down here, and, what's a cardinal sin for a reliever? You walk the leadoff hitter. It's the 9th inning, and we walk Floyd on 4 pitches. And I didn't think any of them were really close. I mean, they're not going back to the screen, but they weren't competitive pitches. And that's the thing, too, with Fristo. Maybe the moment is a little bit big for him. Maybe he's thinking in the back of his mind, here we go again. Maybe. I don't know that. But when you have a situation like he had on Friday, you got to find a way to flush that, and maybe he hadn't been able to do that. So we walk the leadoff guy, and then immediately Brunswick makes us pay and doubles down the left field line. And that ball was hit really well. Now you got runners at second and third with nobody out. Now all of a sudden you start thinking, we're going to lose this ball game. We have danced around this thing all night long, and we're fixing to lose this ball game. And we've actually, at this point, had actually pitched it pretty well. And we're going to lose the ball game. The bullpen's going to let us down again. That was the prevailing sentiment at Duty Noble Field at this point in the ball game. Golda comes through with a double down the right field line. Both runners score. It is now 5-3. And then there is they get the bunt down, and we're not able to do anything with that. Now all of a sudden, you got runners at first and third, and still nobody out. 2 runs are home, 2 men are on, and nobody's out. We bring in Casey Hunt, who I think has to be the closer going forward. I think the one thing I'll say about KC, and this is not in any way to be detrimental to anybody else, I just think KC has a little bit of toughness about him. I think in these situations you've got to have a guy that understands what it takes. Now, maybe it doesn't hurt that he's Landon Sims' roommate, so maybe Landon could kind of help him mentally prepare for these situations. But he was awfully prepared last night. He gets Bugs to strike out swinging, gets Mullins to strike out looking, a very lengthy at bat. And Mullins actually thought he had the walk there, and he didn't. But how many times have you seen it, where a guy just can't finish a hitter and he ultimately gives in to him or just walks him to kind of advance the game? But you hang in here and you finish the guy and you get the punch out. Now, all of a sudden, we can play big infield and get out of here. And we get a ground out to third. Pretty interesting, And if I remember this correctly, we think here for a second. We had the punch out here. We had one, I think it was in the ninth, where we had the strikeout, and then Luke couldn't find the baseball. And the guy advances, and you're thinking, oh, my gosh, here we go. And then Willoughby grounds out to third to get out of it. But I thought KC showed some real poise there in the ninth. Bottom of 9. Just when we think all is lost. Luke Hancock comes in with a leadoff single. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be able to bring the tying run to the plate. LT flies out the center and hit a ball really well. If he pulls that ball just a little bit, it's a home run. He hit it to the biggest part of the ballpark, and it kind of stayed up for the center fielder for that. So now you got, one down in the inning, and Hunter Hines comes up. And Hunter is a guy, and I think that Lamona's touched on it last night. It's like some guys struggle, so they just swing harder, and that's just not how life works in baseball. If you remember early in the year when Hunter first kind of emerged as a star, he was using all fields. That's what he does here. He takes that fastball away, and he knocks it over the left field wall on an 0-1 count to tie the game. We talk about the clutch, Gene, and we had this discussion on Gene's page yesterday, and I know some people disagree with me, and I am perfectly okay with you being wrong, 100%, because I'm right about this, not just because I have lived it as a player and as a coach, as a journalist, and as a baseball parent. Let me just share this with you, and it's so short-sighted sometimes. We talk about clutch. Either you have it or you don't. It's not. It's completely false. That is completely false. Now, are there some people that are more comfortable in those moments? Absolutely. But why are they more comfortable? Sometimes it's about confidence, right? Well, what gives you confidence? Experience, preparation. As I mentioned on the genespage.com message board yesterday, Michael Jordan didn't even make his high school team as a freshman, but he was born with it? No. He used that to motivate him, and he got back in the gym, and he worked harder than he ever worked, and then he became one of the best basketball prospects in the country and ultimately the greatest basketball player of all time. So, yeah, he was born with some natural attributes, but he improved as a player. Let's look a little closer to home. If memory serves me correct, I looked his numbers up yesterday. Do you remember how non-clutch Tanner Allen was in 2018? You remember all that? I do. I don't have this revisionist history. He struck out 62 times that year. And he didn't play every day in the beginning. He struck out 62 times. We didn't have anybody else in the 50s. He was number one with a bullet And what did he strike out 35 times last year and becomes a National Player of the Year? You don't think he improved and got better? So every time these situations come up, people are going to come through. You don't think Hunter Hines is going to be more comfortable with 2 outs in the ninth and the game on the line because of the 2 big tanks he's hit this year to tie ball games? Of course he is, because he's done it. If you've never been in that situation before, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to understand it. But now that you know what it feels like, the game slows down for you a little bit. So again, and all these notifications drive me crazy. But Hunter hits the home run there and ties the game at 5-5. And at this point, I thought we were going to win. I didn't think there was any question. You don't come back from that dramatically after you've basically kind of thrown it in the fire and pulled it out and walk away a loser. It just rarely works out that way. And again, that's just playing baseball the right way, and baseball guys will smile on you when you do. You don't try to pull that outside fastball, because what you do is end up getting a big routine F8. You hit it where it is, and you hammer it. That's what Hunter Hines did. That gives him 10 on the year, which is the team lead. Offered and grounds out to third, and then Clark strikes out looking. And again, we strike out looking here, and we kind of leave our bat on our shoulder. But again, it's a very lengthy at bat. We get down to 0-2. We work it back full. And then we take a breaking ball. The change-up or breaking ball, it was a strike. I checked with our TrackMan people just to be sure. And what I'll say about that, too, is, listen, I know nobody wants to have the awkward strikeout, but we got to get a cutoff here. We got to. Even if you get fooled on the pitch, we got to try to foul it back. You got to. And it's easier said than done, trust me. I get it. But when you don't swing, you don't give us a chance. But again, a lengthy at bat. I think Kellum's seeing the baseball well. And again, I'll say it again. I think he's on the verge of breaking out. All right, top 10. Sears singles to right field. So right out of the gate, they get a leadoff runner on. They pinch run for him. They get a ground out to short. The runner takes second. We thought we may have a chance to get 2 there, but just not really a play there at second. And we get a punch out of Floyd. Floyd's come up in some big situations too. We think it only happens to us. Floyd comes up here trying to advance innings and strikes out a couple times in this ball game. Brunswick has a little clutch in him. This is when we have the strikeout here. I missed this. It wasn't the ninth. It was the 10th. We have him struck out swinging, and they rule the wild pitch, and we don't get him at first. And next thing you know, we do come back. Rather than fold, even though we have a runner on here, we've got a runner at third. The go-ahead run is at 90 feet away from home. We get Golda, who had the big hit earlier, to strike out swinging on 3 pitches. Very efficient, very professional, very, very clutch for Casey Hunt. Bottom of 10, State puts this thing away. Happy to see this happen. All right, so bottom of 10 here. So we open up with Skinner striking out swinging, and it wasn't a bad at bat. I mean, the strikeout itself wasn't great, but we take a couple pitches, and then next thing you know, it's a 2-2 count, and we do swing the bat once, and it is a strikeout. And that's kind of the Brace Skinner experience. I mean, this is a guy that's, he's fleet of foot. He's a good defender. He's not a great hitter. Has just 2 hits on the year. Appreciate his contributions to Bulldog baseball, but he's just not a guy in these situations that you're just going to be able to count on. Lane, though, suddenly hot, burning hot, and Fuego, Lane Forsythe, singles back up the middle here. His 4th hit of the evening. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the winning run on base. And then they decide to try to pick him off. They change pitchers and bring in Bonk, and then he tries to throw over to first and throws inside, and the first baseman actually laid on Lane for a second. And then Landon Sims is screaming for him to go. And he gets up and takes second and third. So now all of a sudden, you've got the winning run at third with 1 out. So we just need anything here. Just give me a routine ground ball to the right side. Of course, they're going to play the infield in, but you can push one through. Or give me a routine fly ball. They bring the outfield in. And what do? They end up walking RJ. And that wasn't the worst thing. I mean, if you look at it from their point of view. Well, now all of a sudden, I've set up a double play. Well, it doesn't work out for him because Cam James steps in and hits a routine fly ball out to right center. Probably the shortest sacrifice fly he'll ever have. And to throw up the line, Lane scores without much trepidation. Bulldogs walk off. We did not play well. We did not. We did do some good situational hitting, but we did not play well. and we still managed to win this ball game. And there have been times this year when that just wouldn't have been the case. We showed some fight. And let's go ahead and award our Prime Shrimp Player of the Game award. I don't think there's any question who it is. It's Lane Forsythe. Lane Forsythe, a guy that absolutely had one of the best games he's had in a Mississippi State uniform. Really good defensively, and then a great job at the plate. And doing a great job also is primeshrimp.com. Be sure to go check them out today, primeshrimp.com. 4 great flavors. I'm kind of on the French Quarter Alfredo right now because it's so easy. You know what I mean? Like you can boil your pot of noodles, and then you got a second pot there of your shrimp. You know, it takes 10 minutes. You just boil the water, open the pouch, and dump them in. There's no prep or there's no messy cleanup or anything like that. And then by the time the noodles are done and thick, you can just pour your Alfredo shrimp over the top. Your French Quarter Alfredo shrimp, a great topper for that. And the Simply Seasoned is outstanding too. You know, and there's just so many. There's 4 great options for you to choose from. Be sure to use promo code Boneyard. Go to primeshrimp.com today. You'll be glad you did. Delivered right to your home very, very quickly, too. They get them in and out very quick. And it's so well packaged, you don't have to worry about your shrimp sitting out all day, even in the Mississippi heat, because it is so well packaged and cooled. And get those bad boys in the house, and you can have great shrimp from a New Orleans-based shrimping company tonight for dinner. Incredible. Primeshrimp.com. Promo code Boneyard to save a little money on that first offer. You'll be glad you did. Trust me on this. I don't do business with people that I don't appreciate their products. This is one of them for sure. Primeshrimp.com. Matter of fact, I'll have some tomorrow, I guess. But looking like at Lane, I mean, Lane was a catalyst last night. 4 for 5, and the one time he didn't, of course, was the fielder's choice early. We had a scoring issue. They initially had him as 4 for 4. But the first at bat, you know, when he hits the ball back to the pitcher and they take Cumbest out at play, that is a fielder's choice, and that is the right call. You can't go back and change that. But Lane, a big night, 2 runs scored, including the game winner. Easy call for the Prime Shrimp Player of the game. But, you know, looking up and down the order, you know, the only guy that didn't get a hit among the starters was Kellum Clark and didn't really have a bat at bat. You know, that's how baseball is sometimes. You know, he didn't appeared to be struggling at the plate like you see in the baseball really well. Other than that late punch out, I mean, I thought Kellum actually hit the baseball really well, and it's just a matter of time, you know, before he gets going. But Luke Hancock, 2 for 5. Logan Tanner, 2 for 5. Hunter Hines, 2 for 5. And, of course, the big home run there. But and Slade Alford, you know, gets a hit and scores a run as well. State left 11 on base last night. And, again, that has become kind of a recurring theme. When we get guys on, we got to get them in. That's not going to work this weekend against Auburn. We're going to have to find a way. Auburn, not an elite offensive team, but they're pitching it really, really well. Really, really well. Real quickly, too, just talk about Lane Forsythe, too. We talk about the jumps and that sort of stuff and all things that happen. There's just a lot that goes into this stuff, you know, looking at the batting average and that sort of stuff. So, you know, coming into last night, Lane's hitting 224, and that's actually up. You know, when we beat Southern University, he was hitting $156, and that was up from hitting $133. You know, it's like he has hovered under the Mendoza line much of the year. He goes to Arkansas, has a couple of hits out there. All of a sudden, he plays a little bit at LSU. You know, has a little success there, and then last night his average jumps 54 points from 224 to 278. Now, listen, there's a little up and down with all this, okay, but 4 for 5, 4 for 5. That dog will hunt right there. So hopefully he can keep it up. Now hitting 278. So keep it going, Lane. Good to see him get it going. And listen, we're going to need him and Leg both. You know, they're both our guys, right? I mean, no matter who you prefer, they're both our guys, and we're going to be counting on both of them to help us advance this season. All right, time for today's. Hey, Boneyard fam, do you like podcasts? Well, certainly you do, because you're listening to one. I like podcasts, too. When I'm out on the road chasing the Bulldogs all over the country, a lot of times I listen to some 80s metal. But after I've reached the end of that playlist, I like to put on some relevant podcasts. That happens regularly with me, and I reach out to my friend Jordan Harbinger. You guys may be familiar with Jordan. If you're not, allow me to introduce you to the Jordan Harbinger podcast. Here's the deal. A lot of different topics are discussed on his show. It's very relevant, and I think you'll find it very interesting. One of my favorites is the Joe Barone two-part special about his, life basically as an informant against the mob. He's kind of caught between the feds and the mob, really a man with no country out there. It's riveting stuff. You can also find out, is a bridesmaid fight worth a disinvite? Well, I would say probably so. A lot of things in there, and it's always something really cool, whether it's Jordan bringing on a great guest or offering some valuable insight to listeners. It's worth your time and trouble. So here's the deal. Go to wherever you get podcasts and search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. It's very, very easy to find. Jordan and then Harbinger, Harbinger Show. And you'll want to get caught up. And that's the thing, too, is you can go back, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes for whatever's going on in your life or whatever tickles your fancy. And here's the deal. Jordan supports me, so I support him. So by him supporting me and me supporting him, it allows us both to bring you guys some great content. So go check it out today, the Jordan Harbinger Show. You'll be glad you did. I'm telling you, the Joe Barone one, in and of itself, if you want a good introductory episode to get to know Jordan and his ability to be an incredible interviewer, that's the one you go to. The Jordan Harbinger Show. Find it where you find great podcasts. Go download and subscribe today. As I travel around the Southeast chasing the Bulldogs around, I see it everywhere. Everybody's hiring. America's workforce not back at its full capacity just yet. A lot of businesses out there struggling to find quality employees. Maybe you're one of them. Let me offer some suggestions. Go visit my friends at Indeed. They've got it figured out for you. They can help you. It's a great partnership. You know how it is. If the Bulldogs don't have the right players with the right skills, chances of winning pretty slim. It's the same for you and your business. Maybe you'd like to be able to do more, but you can't. You got staffing concerns that are holding you back. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applicants that meet your must-have job requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates that may work out, get some ones that you know will with the right skills. You need one powerful hiring partner that can help you get that done. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like the Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply for your position right away. Plus, you only pay for the quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Here's the deal, too. We're going to save you a little money, too. If you're a business out there that's trying to make some things happen, and you say, you know what, Steve, I've never used a company like this, allow me to give you some incentive. How about $75 credit with Indeed? Start hiring right now with that $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Boneyard. That offer is only good through the end of the month. It expires April 30th. That's Indeed.com/Boneyard to claim your $75 credit before April 30th. Terms and conditions may apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. There's no doubt about it. Top 10 list brought to you by my friend and your friend, Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR, closewithblair.com. Blair is one of those guys, too, that, he has been in the industry for 21 years. He is a mortgage professional. There are a lot of people that are in the mortgage business. Blair's a mortgage professional. This is a guy that knows the ins and outs of the industry. And maybe you're kind of a scratch and dent borrower. When I got ready to buy my house up here, I've been self-employed all these years. And so it's like you look at it and say, well, it can be a little bit complicated. It can be a little complicated. And it was. But thankfully, I had a mortgage professional to help me. Somebody like Blair Chandler. And he works for Fairway Mortgage. Recently voted number 1 in customer satisfaction in mortgage lending. So you got the best guy from the best company doing the best job. Visit him today, whether you're looking to refinance your home or possibly get some cash out, consolidate some debt. Maybe you're looking to buy a house. Maybe you've been told no in the past. You think, you know what? I'm a good person doing the best I can. I work every day. I'd like to have the dream of home ownership. Well, give Blair a chance to serve you. I know it's difficult. You think, man, this is never going to happen for me. I'm telling you, if anybody can make it happen, it's Blair Chandler. Give him a call or text today. It's 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. And if you mention to Blair that you heard about him on the Boneyard, he is going to pay for your appraisal, and that's about a $500 value. That's pretty cool right there. A lot of fees associated with getting a mortgage, and so when you get somebody that can save you a little jack, it makes perfect sense to work with them. And not to mention, he just wanted to kind of keep it in the family. Again, that's closewithblair.com. All right. We didn't do our top 10 album list on Monday. We're going to do it today. You know, I don't know that I was ready for that on Monday. I needed a day of healing after seeing the Bulldogs get swept by LSU. It hurts the throat to even utter that phrase. Ugh, I hate it. So we're going to go back to something that I love, and you guys love it too. And then the fact, like if you tell your kids that you listen to this band, they're going to think you were cool because of their recent return to the forefront of the rock scene. We're talking Motley Crue. That's right. I actually had somebody hit me up yesterday and said, "Hey, Steve, I'm trying to find that early Motley Crue list." And we've done a couple Motley Crue lists. We did the Motley Crue top 10, then we did the Motley Crue side projects. So today we're going to rank the top 10 Motley Crue albums. Now, there were 9 studio albums, and there's talk of a 10th one, maybe. We'll see. But we also had the Dirt soundtrack, which was basically a greatest hits album that was remastered, but they did have 3 other original tunes on there. So we're going to include that as the number 10 album, The Dirt. And again, you had that great cover of Madonna's Like a Virgin, which is kind of interesting considering that they were contemporaries at the time on opposite ends of the musical spectrum. But Motley covers Like a Virgin. That's not your song there. We're going to go with The Dirt that actually had Machine Gun Kelly doing a bit of a rock rap type deal on it. It is a great tune, and the mastering of this sound is a little bit different. You know, like when I listened to it in my stock radio, it didn't sound nearly as good as it does now since I've upgraded some things. But you know, The Dirt is a great track, and I think that it would. I've watched that Netflix movie, I don't know, maybe 15 times or so. And sometimes when I'm just looking for something to watch late at night, when I'm like, I don't want to get into a series, I just want to watch like some debauchery and some silliness, I put on The Dirt from Motley Crue. It's outstanding. So the number 10 Motley album is the Dirt soundtrack, and that's not in any way it's kind of a technicality, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say it's a bad album. It is a great listen because it's got many of your favorite hits on it, but I can't take a compilation album and move it ahead of these studio albums. So that's your number 10 album, The Dirt, and the song is the soundtrack single, The Dirt. Okay, number 9, and to me, this is the worst Motley Crue album. And I hate to even say it that way. Things were so disjointed at the time, right? So Vince had left the band. Vince says he was fired, and based on what I know about those guys, I would say that's probably the case. Nicky probably fired him. Nicky says Vince quit. Vince says Nicky fired him. Nicky is the leader of Motley Crue. I'm going to go with, even though Nicky's my hero, I'm going to go with Vince's version of events because that sounds exactly like what Nicky would do, and then some of the things they said afterwards made perfect sense. But so they cut a self-titled album that is a little bit later in the chart. And so this is the first album, you know, as everybody kind of gets back together. And it was very disjointed. And I think part of it is because Karabi had written some of this. And quite frankly, I don't think Tommy Lee wanted to be back in a band with Vince Neil. And I think it showed in the music. You know, Tommy has said many times that he felt the self-titled album with Karabi is some of the best work they've ever done. I agree. And I think that there was some bitterness, and I think the tension within the band really showed in this album, Generation Swine. The track that I went with was Afraid, which is really one of the only shiny moments on the album. There are a couple of good tracks on here. It's almost like Motley tried to be punk, and it just didn't work. It just didn't come off. They weren't true to themselves, and I think they just kind of threw this thing together and said, hey, Motley's back with the original singer. Let's go get out on the road and sell a bunch of shirts. And it just didn't work out well. I think the album comes up really short. Number 8, this was a step in the right direction. And it's the album New Tattoo. And I'm going to go with a deeper track off this album. I know many people like, you know, well, Steve, there's, Hell on High Heels. And it's cute. It is. I didn't think Vince vocally was really strong on that one. But my favorite song on the New Tattoo album was not even a single. It's a deeper track. And it's Punched in the Teeth by Love. I think this is, to me, is a lot more consistent with the classic Motley sound. I love Mick Mars' opening riff on this. I think it is probably one of the more underappreciated songs in the Motley catalog. So we're going Punch in the Teeth by Love off a New Tattoo album. Number 7, another good album, I thought. I think it's one of those, again, it's a step in the right direction, and it's the Saints of Los Angeles. I really like the title track. That's your song today, Saints of Los Angeles. And again, I think Vince had kind of recaptured some things here. But the Saints of Los Angeles was supposed to be, the last album, and I actually have, Motley Crue leg sleeve, and I've got that sola on my leg, Saints of Los Angeles. But I think that there were some high marks on this album, and I do think, again, it showed maybe Motley was a little more committed, and it was much better than the recent albums they had put out in its entirety. And there's some good tracks on this album too that you never hear on the radio. Those are things that I think about when I look at some of these albums, because a single is supposed to be an advertisement for the rest of the album. Like it's I only go buy that album or download that album, which whatever. But when I think about this Saints of Los Angeles album, I mean, you've got Face Down in the Dirt is great. What's It Gonna Take to Make It is great. And, of course, Sounds of Los Angeles. And the Animal and Me, I think, is pretty decent. Chicks Equal Trouble is great. White Trash Circus is great. This Ain't a Love Song was a single for them, too. So, again, I think it's, of the later albums, it is the better album. Now, number 6, a lot of controversy about this album. And it's the number 6 album. It's the self-titled album with John Corabi. I know many of you that are going to message me and say, Steve, no, you're wrong about this. I am not wrong. You're welcome to your opinion. I am not wrong. The self-titled Motley Crue album is a great rock and roll record. Great. And a lot of people just kind of panned it because it didn't have Vince Neil on it. Oh, it's not really Motley. No, it's Motley. It's just a different kind of Motley. But this is a great album. And in fact, I think because of this album, when Vince rejoined the band, I think they lost a little bit of the magic in the next couple of albums, because I think Tommy and Mick and those guys were kind of happy with the direction of Corabi. The problem was is you guys just wouldn't support it. And the record company kind of called in the marker and said, you guys, we can't keep Corabi. And I'm a John Corabi fan. As I sit here right now, I've got a collection of John Corabi picks. I've got a John Corabi shirt. I'm not wearing it right now, but I've actually met John a couple times. And when he was the rhythm guitar player in Rat, I'm right down front, got my Dr. Feelgood shirt on. John gives me a pick. And great guy, for sure. And I loved his work with The Scream, and one of my favorite rock albums from the early 90s. It's difficult to find. But if you can find it, download it, listen to it, you'll be glad you did. But when I found out that John Corabi was joining Motley, I was like, man, this is going to be interesting. And it was. There are so many great songs on that album. My favorite one is not the one on the list today. My favorite song on that album is Till Death Do Us Part. It is incredible. And I think Living in the Know is great. There's so many good. Uncle Jack is great. Uncle Jack is a Corabi song about an uncle of his that was a predator. There's a lot of things on there. The album is very vulnerable. I think it's some of Nicky's best work too. And I think that John Corabi, the fact that he was a guitar player, made it a little bit easier, for Mick to be a little more out of the box. So I think the album worked. You guys didn't support it. I did. But Hooligan's Holiday, that's your number 6 song. Hooligan's Holiday, which is in your face. I love it so much. All right, number 5. We're down to basically the 5 albums that made Motley famous. And as the definitive Motley Crue expert in the state of Mississippi and perhaps the world, I believe the order in which I have these albums, I think this is really non-negotiable. Number 5 is Theater of Pain. This is another album that was in many ways kind of disjointed. There wasn't a lot of hits on this album. I dug it, because I was a kid. Motley was my heroes. When you go back in hindsight, some of it doesn't hold up. That song, We Need to Love Her Tonight, I think is an absolute banger. People don't talk about it. Tonight is great. Use It or Lose It. Very, very catchy for the time. But I think the production value of the original album was not as good as it should have been. There was so much pressure, of course, and you had all this, Vince had all these legal problems, and there was all this stuff going on, and we didn't know if the band was going to continue. And then we finally get the album out, and the great cover of Smoking in the Boys' Room, I mean, it's like that video was played on MTV like once an hour. And then all of a sudden, Motley, with all their neon clothes and stuff, became, really headliners. They'd opened for Ozzy. Now all of a sudden, Motley was one of the biggest bands in the world. And this really wasn't one of their better albums. It's a good album. It's not a great album. But we got to go with the classic Home Sweet Home. How can you have a list of Motley songs without Home Sweet Home? So number 5 is the Theater of Pain album, and then Home Sweet Home. And again, I think there's a little bit of filler on this album. I think a lot of it's because there was so much pressure to get an album out that it kind of comes off a little bit unfinished. Number 4, and this is an album that really pulled a lot of people into Motley. And this is like, at this point in my life, I was kind of finding like some heavier music. I was still true to the crew, but I was kind of getting into some more obscure things, like the Sea Hags and Bang Tango and Shotgun Messiah. It's like, when all the preps started liking kind of regular radio metal, I kind of went the other direction, but I was still true to the crew. But number 4 is the Girls, Girls, Girls album. I know some people are going to say, Steve, that's impossible. Girls, 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 incredible album. It is really, really good. It is really, really good, and I would venture to say, in some respects, bordering on greatness. And I thought it was, I think it's much better than Theater of Pain. Much better. Consistency from start to finish. Some great tracks on this album. Many of you would go with the title track, and I love that song too. I think it is an iconic song, one of those anthemic songs that everybody knows, Girls, Girls, Girls. And don't we all love that? But I went with Wild Side. I think Wild Side is my favorite song on the Girls, Girls, Girls album. And there's some good ones on there. I mean, of course, you got, Bad Boy Boogie and Dancing on Glass. You're All I Need was banned from MTV. That's the song about the guy that kills his girlfriend. And, it's a very interesting album, but it also kind of showed that Motley had some staying power. There are a lot of people that are just, it's Flash and the VO5 pan, but Motley, when they came back with Girls, Girls, Girls and kind of capitalized on Theater of Pain, and they go back to the black leather and that sort of stuff. We kind of get out of the neon stuff, the spandex pants. And so I think people said, these guys are really going to be here to stay. Number 3, we're going back to the beginning. Now, Elektra didn't do these guys a solid with the production value of the very first album. I think a lot of it, too, like, honestly, many of the songs on the first album are as good as the songs on the second album. But because Motley had hit the road and built a following, they put more money as a record company behind the follow-up, Shout at the Devil. But Too Fast for Love was a great album. And of course, you go back and listen to Too Fast for Love, and you can hear the vocal parts are probably not mixed very well. But when you go back and listen to the remastered stuff, it sounds a little bit better. But Vince was still kind of finding his voice at this point. But the best song on this album, and there are so many good ones. So I like Come On and Dance. I think it's a great little track. Too Fast for Love is great too. But Livewire, to me, is the shining moment on the Too Fast for Love album. I wish in many respects that when they had recorded this, that Elektra would have really put in some money behind this, because I think the production value of the album, even in the remastered, kind of holds some of these songs back. They're great tracks, and they come off live, but I think the album itself, because Elektra maybe went a little bit on the cheap, could have been better. Number 2 is Dr. Feelgood. The Dr. Feelgood album, and there was so much, listen, Vince had the Rack, and Razzle had died. Nikki had died, had overdosed on heroin multiple times, in and out of rehab. And so this was Motley's first attempt at being a band of sobriety. And so I think it showed. I think the Dr. Feelgood album, from start to finish, is outstanding. There are a couple songs on there lyrically, they're a little bit lacking. But by and large, I thought Motley again showed that, we're the biggest band in the world. So we come out with Too Fast for Love, and then we capitalize on that with Shout at the Devil. Now all of a sudden we're opening for Ozzy, we're playing arenas, we're no longer in clubs. Then you had Theater of Pain that was a little bit disjointed, and then you take a big step forward with Girls, 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 and then you capitalize on that with Feel Good, which I thought was outstanding. And I know many of you said, well, Steve, they're going to peak because of Pico Khan, he's going to go with Kickstart My Heart. And that would be a good pick, but I'm not. I could have gone with another slice of your pie. Could have gone with that one, but I didn't. I went with Dr. Feelgood. There's just something about this song that makes me move. I think it's one of Nicky's shining moments as the bass player of Motley Crue. I love the tuning on this. I love how in the pocket the sound is. It is a big, big sound because of how great the bass is on this. I think Tommy and Nicky do a great job as the rhythm section. So Dr. Feelgood is your number 2 track, and that is your number 2 album, which leaves number 1. It's a Shout at the Devil album, which is the one that really showed Motley Crue was more than just a club band, that they were ready to take on the world, and they did. And I don't think there's a bad album. It's like you go back and look at all these Motley albums. I mean, you got some covers on these albums, and I thought their version of Helter Skelter was really good and really kind of irreverent and in your face a little bit. And I thought Vince really found his voice on this album. But my favorite song on the album, and there are a bunch of them. I mean, it's like depending on what day you ask me, my number 2 might change. Of course, Shout at the Devil was really good. Red Hot is amazing. Tommy's double bass on that kind of set a new era in music in many respects. 10 Seconds to Love is phenomenal. Knock 'em Dead Kid is one that I listen to at high volume on regular occasions. But I went with Looks to Kill, which is my favorite Motley Crue song of all time. And this is my favorite album, and it is my list and my show. But I think this list will promote some discussion because there are a lot of people out there that don't know the back end of this catalog, and for good reason, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you don't have the same level of production, you don't have the same level of support, but also too, I just think that the albums themselves are a little bit thinner, and it's true Crue heads, like, hey, we love them, but even me as a guy that has got a Motley Crue leg sleeve and a Motley Crue license plate and a bunch of Motley Crue memorabilia, I can tell you that there were some weaker moments after Vince came to the band, and I'm looking forward to seeing these guys on the stadium tour later this year. I wasn't sure I'd ever see them again. So that's your top 10 Motley albums. I hope you guys can dig it. I think most people would probably agree with our order here, but I look forward to getting your feedback. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let me know. You can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R, or you can go right to the keeper of the list, Roy Samante, at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. And you can find him on Twitter and DM him directly. And then, of course, if you're looking for the list, you can find him on Spotify. Search for Dogmatic67 there. And then our friend Izzy Mandelbaum doing a great job, doing the Lord's work, putting it on Apple Music for everybody too. And so it's been incredible. It really has been incredible to see how this thing has transformed. And you guys are digging the top 10 albums too, which I think is kind of interesting too. It gives us a chance to go back and revisit, some great lists. But excited about this one. And since I was in a better mood, I thought, hey, let's go with what we know. So Motley Crue, in your face. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by the fine folks at Campus Bookmart. I love Campus Bookmart. You will too. If you haven't been in there, you're missing service with a smile. Great selection, great product, great pricing. The thing that I love too is like if I ever need anything Mississippi State related, I can find it at Campus Bookmart. And if they don't have it, they can get it. Standing man, Miss Kathy Brown, lovely, talented Susie, doing a great job for a great fan base, delivering great Mississippi State merch. If you can't make it to town, let me encourage you to visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $50. You'll be glad you have that code, because the more you buy, the more expensive the shipping is. Load up on Mississippi State merch. Football season will be here before you know it. Summertime is here. You need some short sleeve shirts. You need some tanks. You need some hats. Get that over ass cap. You need to get one basically every year. You really do. And be glad you did. Campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right. I'm going to broach a topic today that might be somewhat controversial. And say, Steve, why are we talking about this now? Well, I'm talking about it because you guys are talking about it. I'm pretty in tune with what happens on social media. I know what you guys are saying. And sometimes I like it, and sometimes I don't. But sometimes we have some uninformed takes. And so I thought, let's prepare. I spent several hours working on this yesterday in anticipation of the show. And at some point, I'll write this article when I feel like it's timely. We won last night, so it's not the time. We're going to ride the wave, but we are going to talk about this. I've read many of you, your biggest fear right now as it relates to Mississippi State baseball is that we're not going to make the tournament. You know what? I have the same fear. I do. It's one of those things I think about. It's like, I don't want to have to live with that. It's like, well, other people are going to say. I don't care what other people say. It's my own personal expectations for Mississippi State baseball. It's something we've always been proud of. And it's like, you always think, okay, we've been to Omaha 3 years in a row. Maybe we're a little bit spoiled and maybe we have forgotten how special it is to get there because we've done it so regularly. I mean, it's incredible to think about, what the last decade has brought in Mississippi State baseball. We played for a national championship twice. We've won an SEC championship. Been in Super Regionals, 5-6 times now in the last 10 years? I mean, you go all the way back. We lose to Arizona in 16 as a national seed. We scratch and claw and get to LSU in 17. 18, of course, we win a Super Regional, and we get to Omaha. We beat Vanderbilt and Nashville. 19, we do it again, win a Super Regional against Stanford. No tournament in 20, which we'd have done it then too. We had a good team. We lose Foscue and Westberg and then get back there in 2021 and win the whole thing. And so it's like, there's this new generation of Bulldog fans that is kind of seeing unprecedented success. And sometimes we lose a little bit of context. And so I wanted to provide some today. A lot of people said, Steve, if we don't make the tournament, it'll be the first time it's ever happened. And that is so incredibly wrong. It's wrong. I'm not in any way trying to defend it. But it's not a rarity that a team wins a national championship and then goes back and repeats. There have been 9 repeat champions in the history of college baseball. We started having the College World Series in 1947. And there was a repeat in 1949. Texas wins in 49 and 50. USC then puts a string together of 5 straight. That's pretty impressive, right? Then you get to Stanford in 87 and 88. I mean, we went all the way from 74 to 77 to 88 before we had another repeat champion. So Stanford goes back-to-back in 87, 88. And then LSU, 96, 97. Oregon State, back-to-back 2006 and 2007. And South Carolina does again in 10 and 11, and then played again a little bit later for a national championship. Pretty crazy. And so those are the only times that you've had repeat champions. So the odds of us repeating were pretty slim to begin with. Now, did I think we had a chance? I absolutely did. And here's the thing, too. Here's the hot take today. I think we still do. And the numbers kind of support that if we can make the tournament. Here's what's astounding. So we have crowned 74 national champions in college baseball. Just 45 of them made the tournament the next year. So basically just over a third of national championship teams didn't make the tournament the next year. Did you expect the number to be that high? You probably didn't. And just to kind of go back to it, it's been more regular in the modern era. But let's say the first 20 years or so of the College World Series, you had 15 teams that won it that went back the next year. Excuse me, that's incorrect. You had 5 teams that won it that went to the tournament the next year. So 15 of 20, basically 21 national champions. I guess you could go even further. You can go all the way from 69. So from 1947 to 1969, only 5 teams that won a national championship were even in the tournament the next year. Now, granted, back in those days, you had a lot more senior-laden teams. So teams kind of build, and they get to be seniors because old wins in college baseball. Well, then you reach the end of a talent cycle, so you're starting over. And that was really the case in the first third of the history of the College World Series. The teams that did go back, the 48 SC team, and, of course, the 49 Texas team, because they repeated. 59, Oklahoma State wins it. They actually made it back to the College World Series. And then USC in 63, Ohio State in 66. A pretty good run there. But you had some really impressive programs that put together great runs and then win a title and then don't get back. And then things began to change in the 1970s. People began to really care more about college baseball. So, of course, SC, dominated the first half of the 70s. But from the 1970s, if you won a national championship, you were going back to the tournament 80% of the time. There were only 2 champions in the 1970s that won it all and then didn't make the tournament afterwards. And most of them made it back to Omaha. Most of them. And, of course, that's skewed by the SC's unprecedented run in college baseball. You get to the 1980s, and, again, it's similar in many respects. If you won a championship in the 1980s, you went back to the tournament 7 out of 10 times. 7 out of 10. And, of course, Stanford repeated, and then the next year didn't make it back to the tournament. And that's, again, you kind of reach the end of a talent cycle. Cal State Fullerton, won it in 84 and didn't make the tournament. But in the 80s, when you won it, 7 out of 10 times you made it back. In the 1990s, kind of unprecedented success here for college baseball. Teams that won the NAFL championship in the 90s, 9 out of 10 times went back to the tournament. The one time they didn't, our friends at Georgia. And when I talked about that recently, I don't want to be Georgia. They're a team that just kind of caught a magic moment. And they weren't a great college baseball program before that. It just kind of came together for them. The only team in the 90s to win an AFL championship, to not advance back to the tournament in a repeat year, was Georgia. But it happens. 2000, and again, it kind of begins to be a consistent theme here. The teams that win it all traditionally go back. In the 2000s, from 2000 to 2009, 9 out of 10 teams that made the tournament went back. The one team that didn't, the 07 Oregon State NAFL championship team. And again, a team that repeated, hit the end of a talent cycle. They win it in 06 and 07. They don't go in 08. Now, the last decade has been a little different because three of the 10. But by and large, you see you get a passing grade here, that teams that win it make the tournament in the modern era with pretty great regularity. Historically, you've had some teams that haven't made it that won big. And again, college baseball has changed a lot in the modern era. I think it's important to point that out. And I think really in the 70s, people really began to invest in college baseball. And then in the 80s, people began to build these great parks, and it became more of a spectator sport. And so you guys turned out. And so with more resources available, teams are able to kind of sustain some success. Now, what's interesting too, so how many teams that won the NAFL championship won a regional the next year? Well, we already know that there was a handful of them that didn't even make the field, right? And guys, it's about half. It's about half the teams that win an NAFL championship win a regional the next year. Many don't participate, and then others lose. I guess there were 7 teams that actually lost in a regional. So it comes out just over right around 51%, about as close to half as you can be. And then 74 of our national championship teams, 24 of our 74 national championship teams advanced back to the College World Series in their defense year. So it's about a third, and that number might, you kind of look at it and say, wow, that's pretty impressive. And again, SC's numbers kind of skew that a little bit, but you can't just eliminate those numbers. It's what happened. The numbers are what they are. But by and large, teams in the modern era that are on a pretty good run here, they go to Omaha and they go back. I mean, just kind of looking in recent years. Let's just kind of look in the 2000s. 2000 LSU wins it. They don't make it back to Omaha the next year. 01, same thing. Miami wins it, don't make it to Omaha. 2002, Texas wins it. They do make it back to Omaha. Rice wins it in 03, and then they don't win a regional. Cal State Fullerton wins in 04. They don't make it back to Omaha. Texas wins it and then doesn't win a regional. 2006, Oregon State wins, and then they repeat. And then after the 07 year, they don't make the tournament. 2008, Fresno State wins it, makes a tournament, doesn't win a regional. 2009, LSU wins it, and then doesn't win a regional. South Carolina wins it, repeats, and then even in 2012, they go back to Omaha. So it's 3 straight years for them. It was a great run for Ray Tanner and his club. 2012, Arizona wins it, and then didn't make the tournament. 2013, UCLA beat us for a NAFL title, and then didn't make the tournament. Vanderbilt wins it in 14. They go back and lose to Virginia the next year in the national final. Virginia wins in 2015, and then didn't win the regional next year. 2016, Coastal wins it all, a year that we should have won it, one of many, and then they don't make the tournament. In 17, Florida wins it. They go back to Omaha. 18, Oregon State wins it, then doesn't win a regional. And Vanderbilt wins in 19 and then goes back and loses to Mississippi State in the College World Series final in 2021. And so it is very much a mixed bag, but it is not without precedent. I think it's important, too, for us to have some context here. We have to kind of understand that, number one, it's so incredibly difficult to win, and then to have to win in back-to-back years. I mean, you're asking an awful lot. It happens, and it's not just in the infancy of the College World Series. We have had some two-time champions here in recent years, and it's because we talked about, with Oregon State, South Carolina, those have all happened, in the last 15 years. And so you begin to think about, number one, it's difficult to do, but here's the thing, is what we've learned is if you can make the tournament as a national champion, the chances of you advancing beyond the regional round are really, really good. And so if we can just get there, if we can just get to a regional, I think we can get to the supers. Can we get beyond that? I don't know. It depends on matchups. And it depends on how well we're pitching. That's been the thing. There are sometimes we go out there and pitch it really well like we do Friday night against LSU. We hold them to, 1 run and 3 hits for 8 2/3 of an inning and then lose the ball game. And we didn't just lose it because we blew the save. We lost it because we couldn't expand the lead. So if we're playing our best baseball at the end of the year, which is what I hope, and I think that's the expectation for all of us, we just got to make the tournament somewhere. And I think there will be a lot of weight off the shoulders of this team. It's like, hey, we did it. We're back. And we know how to win in tournaments. We do. We're a team that does well in regionals. Hadn't always been the case. Chris Simonis done exceptionally well managing this team through tournaments. And so let's just find a way to get there. It's as simple as that. If we can just find a way to get there, you never know what can happen. You never know. So let's not give up on the season just yet. Now, we have a bad weekend this weekend. I may feel completely different next week. But, yeah, we're kind of hanging on by a thread at this point. But we got to string some baseball together. The good thing is there's a lot of games left. We got a chance to go out there and win some games. We just got to play better. And I'm talking to a friend earlier. He goes, I just keep waiting for us to break out. And, we may not. I believe that we will, though. I believe, when now all of a sudden you get Lane going, and all of a sudden, Kelvin Clark's having some great at-bats, even though he went 0 for 5. All of a sudden maybe Slade Offer gets going. You never know what's going to be the catalyst. But I'm still hopeful that we can find a way to make it into a regional somewhere. On Monday, I wasn't nearly as optimistic, and I can't say I'm optimistic now, but I do at least acknowledge there is the possibility. And then once we get there, there will be this mental lift. It's like, hey, after all this nonsense and all the adversity that we did, we still found a way to make it. And I think his team would relax, and I think they're capable of winning a regional. Anything beyond that, I'm not ready to make that decision. I don't think, I think that depends on matchups. But, I don't think anybody at this point can say this team has played anything like an Omaha team. I think the best we can hope for is just find a way to scratch and claw and get to Hoover and get in a regional somewhere, and then we'll see how things shake out. But I wanted to kind of give you the historical numbers just so you have an idea of kind of how this thing is, because there's always some people that, despite their professions of love for Mississippi State, can't wait to hate on Mississippi State. So that's where you stand with every bit of this. The numbers, again, not in our favor, but that's baseball. You never know. Fresno State had to sweep the final series of their conference schedule to make their conference tournament. They ended up winning a national championship. So, again, that's not without precedent either. 2018, we needed to sweep Florida to get to Hoover, and then we ended up making it all the way to Omaha and losing to the eventual national champion, Oregon State. So it's not like, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So let's just kind of hang in here and keep winning ball games. And even though we won last night, we got to play better than we did last night. Final segment of the show brought to you by the fine folks at Portico. Portico is a great residential development here in the greater Starkville area. A very impressive place. You need to go by and check it out yourself. If you're thinking about moving to Starkville, if it's always been your dream to move to Starkville or move back up here or retire here or have a place here, that's always fun to say, right? Portico is the way to go. Turn off 82 on the Highway 12, like going to campus, take the very first right at Pat Station Road. You cross over the four-way stop, boom, there's Portico right there. You're going to be impressed. You will be. And it's so conveniently located to campus, but far enough away that you can have some peace and quiet. Brooks Bryan is my friend. He's your friend. Brooks knee-deep in every bit of this. And it's actually Brooks' wife's, Beth's, birthday today. So happy birthday to you, Beth. Brooks, be sure and give her a nice dinner and the credit card. Let her buy whatever she wants. Brooks' phone number is 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. You can start with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home, go all the way up to 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Phase 1 is completely sold out. You already got some new friends and neighbors that are already entrenched there, enjoying life in Starkville. Phase 2 is under development now, so you can have a say in that, picking out your house plans or picking out your lot. So be sure and give Brooks a call and make Portico your next move. All right, final segment of the show. Let's kind of get to this real quickly here. We'll have plenty of time to kind of preview some stuff on Friday, but I want to kind of take a quick look, what's happened this week in the SEC in baseball, and then take a quick look at Auburn. It's been there'll actually be some baseball tonight. Not tonight. It's tomorrow night. Today's Wednesday. So looking back here at the schedule it's been a busy week in the non-conference, and it always is this time of year. People are just kind of playing one. But Tuesday night, rather interesting. Ole Miss beats Murray State 8-2. Arkansas shells Arkansas Pine Bluff 15-0. Alabama sneaks by Belmont 3-1. And man, Crimson Tide playing well. Mississippi State, of course, 6-5 winners over UAB. Kentucky, 11-1 winners over Bellarmine. I didn't know there was a Bellarmine until last year. I think Kentucky played them, it seemed like every week. Tennessee Tech, a major upset. They go into Knoxville, and they beat, I guess it was on a neutral field. Yeah, they beat Tennessee 3-2 with wooden bats. I don't know that I'd even agree to play that game. But 3-2 winners, Tennessee Tech upsets number 1, Tennessee. Florida State blanks Florida 5-0. Florida, kind of flirting with the top 25 over and over again. Tough midweek loss there, 5-0 in Tallahassee. And then Western Illinois, 9-1 losers at Missouri. I guess maybe they played a doubleheader, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and maybe so. Yeah, looks like there was a 6-0 win there too. And then Western Kentucky loses 7-4 at Vanderbilt. North Florida in the game for a while, but lose 4-2 at South Carolina. Georgia wins a wild one at Kennesaw State. And I tell you this Kennesaw State team, I don't know that anybody wants them in a regional either. That may be a preview. Goodness gracious. Josh Hatcher last night, guys, 4 for 6 last night. Josh Hatcher, it's absolutely ridiculous the run this guy is on. Josh Hatcher had a double last night, did some big things, and but they lose. Georgia's able to, and Georgia got a good team this year. 17-15 winners, Georgia. 17-15. What a game. You talk about burning through some arms. Auburn sneaks by Samford 4-1. LSU and Lamar was postponed. And then Texas A&M goes down to Corpus Christi and takes care of A&M Corpus Christi 5-3. So that's your weekend. And, your midweek. An interesting midweek. And a lot of interesting matchups out here. And it's such a mixed bag. It's like you see this Kennesaw State team. And I don't know that anybody wants to see them as a regional. I mean, honestly. The way that offense is going. And listen, and good for Hatch, man. It didn't work out here for us. But, man, I wish that kid the best. Really do. Really do. All right, let's take a quick look at Auburn before we get out of here. And it will be a quick one. Auburn, opens up the year out at the State Farm College Baseball Showdown out there in Arlington at Globe Life Field, same place we were there last year. They take 2 of 3. They lose the first game to Oklahoma 3-0. They beat Texas Tech 2-1 and then beat Kansas State 12-1. So Butch and his staff out there allowed 5 runs. And it wasn't the field that it was last year, but these are quality teams. So you knew right away they're pitching it pretty well. They get out of there with a 2-1 weekend. They beat Troy, then they take 2 out of 3 against Yale. They lose the Game 3, the backside of a doubleheader in 10 innings, 5-4. They blast Alabama State. They blast UAB. They get by Rhode Island and take 4 games from those guys. 4 games from URI. So and Rhode Island's not about baseball power. They beat Tennessee Tech 4-3 in Huntsville at Toyota Field. Then they lose to Middle Tennessee, lose 2 out of 3 to Middle Tennessee on the weekend out there. And that weekend they didn't pitch it exceptionally well. They didn't. They lose 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss. And, of course, the big one, the Saturday game, they win 19-5. But, again, they didn't pitch it well. Ole Miss put up a ton of runs in this series, 33 runs in 3 games. South Alabama, we talk about pitching again. Auburn wins 13-12. They go to A&M, and you're thinking, okay, these guys are reeling a little bit, and then they win 2 out of 3 down there and pitched it pretty well. And won some close ball games, and then they lose the 11-inning game. Very nearly could have swept this series. And again, I don't know if we know how good A&M is, to be quite honest with you. They lose then to Jacksonville State at home, and then they take 2 of 3 from LSU in Baton Rouge. And again, those games mostly nip and tuck, with the exception of the game they lost where they got away 9-2. But there's a lot of 6-5, 6-4 type games. They beat UAB 6-4 on April 5th. And then they host Vanderbilt and take 2 of 3 for them. And then the loss again, the 19-4 loss on Saturday. So Saturdays looks like it's kind of an interesting day for Butch and his bunch. You just never know from one weekend to the next what Saturday's going to look like. A lot of lopsided scores, some in Auburn's favor and some against. But that's a good weekend for them. And of course, the 19th spot on Saturday, you look at it and say, man, that's a ton. But you win the series, nobody cares. All right, then they beat Samford last night 4-1. And so, yeah, it's been an up and down year. Can we win the series? Yes, we can. And do I expect to win the series? Yeah, I do. But I'm also not opposed to the other thing either, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's like you look at this stuff and you can talk yourself into anything. But Auburn's pitching it well. They're not a great offensive team. And I think that maybe we found something pitching-wise. And Brandon Smith has not been announced as a Sunday starter. It's TBA. Chris Simonis said last night. So what that tells me is that Preston's going Thursday, Cade's going Friday, and then TBA on Saturday. So we'll see how that breaks loose. The leading hitter at Auburn is Sonny DeShara, former Samford slugger. We saw him last year come to the regional, hit a tank against us in the game that we won against them. 438. Pretty remarkable when you think about it. 438. It's absolutely ridiculous. 11 home runs for him, 32 RBI. Still waiting for that first stolen base. Blake Rambush is another guy, too. It's done really well for them, 374 average. He's hit a couple tanks, too. 9 of 13 in stolen bases. That's one thing I'll say about Auburn, too. In relation to some of the other teams that we played, they'll get out and run the bases a little bit. Case and Howell having a good year for them, 321. Started all 33 games for them. Got a couple of tanks, 24 ribbies. Brady Moore, 295 hitter. So you got 3 guys hitting above 300. And then there is a kind of a substantial drop-off. There's not a lot of length in this lineup. And that's the thing where you can't get lulled into sleep here and start walking guys and committing errors. Cole Foster hitting 255, got four home runs himself. Bryson Ware, kind of a part-time starter for them. 1 home run for him. He is 3 of 3 in stolen bases. Ryan Dawgs, another guy that's hit 4 tanks too. So as a team, you got 35 home runs. You've allowed 29. They're hitting 297 as a team, but a lot of that too is it's kind of top loaded. But there's not a lot of this automatic outs in this order. You don't just look at it and say, okay, well, we can pitch around this guy. I mean, you're going to have to go out there and compete. And I think Butch is a guy, too, that realizes, they need to make some things happen. They were kind of built to win last year, and it didn't work out. They hit the portal pretty hard this year, as we expected them to, and have done a nice job kind of piecing together a solid team. They're certainly in contention to make the tournament. I don't think there's any question. This would be a big weekend for us. Now, pitching-wise, you always know what you're going to get with Butch. Butch is a guy that's constantly going to have guys that are very well prepared. They're going to compete. Trace Bright has 8 starts under his belt with a 3.83 ERA, a 2-3 record on the year. He leads the staff in 40 innings pitched and allowing less than a hit per inning. He has allowed 21 runs, though, so you can get some runs on him. He's allowed just 3 tanks, does have a propensity to walk people, I guess 19 walks. We could use the free passes, right? 43 punch-outs to 19 walks. The 19 walks, the most on the team. Jordan Armstrong has been outstanding for them, too. He is a part-time starter, but also a reliever. 38 Ks against 9 walks. He has a 3-1 record, 24.2 innings pitch, allowing over a hit per inning. Allowed a couple tanks as well, and he has hit 4 as well. Speaking of hit by pitches, Hayden Mullins is a guy that, again, kind of a part-time starter for them. He has hit 7 this year and walked 17. This is another guy, too, that he will put you on base if you let him. and he is one of their SEC guys, averaging about 4 innings per contest. Vanderbilt really struggled against him. 9 strikeouts and just the 1 hit. LSU, 7 strikeouts against him and then 3 hits. Ole Miss had a little bit of success against him, but he has found himself a little bit in SEC play. But he is a guy we should expect to see. Joseph Gonzalez is a guy that, we saw him last year, and he basically melted down against us in that Sunday game. But he is born again hard. That guy has been really good in his 2 recent starts. He goes 6 innings against LSU, allows 9 hits, but scatters those and allows 3 runs, couple walks, and 1 punch out. And that LSU lineup will expose some of your tendencies. Vanderbilt, he has a complete game, 9 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, only 1 of those earned, no walks, 8 Ks. So he is around the plate. And that's what I think Mississippi State needs. We need some guys that are going to be around the plate. But Gonzalez, a great developmental job by Butch Thompson and those guys over there, because there were times last year I just looked at him and said, hey, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. But the bottom line is, this guy's better. You looked at him last year and they were saying, oh, they're really high on him, and you just didn't see it. Well, this year he's got a 1.95 ERA and 4-0 record and 6 starts. So pretty impressive. Jordan Armstrong's the guy too that good chance we see him. But this is a pitching staff that is very, very solid, and they're doing a much better job than they were, a season ago as a staff. 4.20 ERA. You look at the walks, and that's the thing that'll get you. 139. Opponents have walked 165 of the Auburn hitters, and then 340 punch-outs. So you're right there, 3-1. But a team that at times will give up the long ball, but not unnecessarily high. I don't think it's at our level, but 29 home runs against Auburn pitching. So we'll see how things go with those guys. But can we win the series? Yes, we can. Do I expect it? I can't say that I'm at that point yet. Ask me Friday. But I think we need to go out. If Preston Johnson pitches as well as he pitched last Thursday, then I think we're going to win the first game, and then we'll see how things go. And it's so important for us to be able to get that win. You lose that game against LSU, and it's like it felt like the world was falling down around us. And I think you get that win against Auburn, and I think that'll give you a lot of confidence the rest of the weekend. Can we win it? Yes. Will we win it? Remains to be seen. All right, listen, if you're looking for books, you can find them. And I understand, too, they have freed up some more inventory. So dogpilethebook.com, we were kind of dwindling down there. It looks like we're going to be able to bridge this thing together. We'll have another shipment, before Father's Day. But if you're looking for a book for Mother's Day, maybe now's the time to get it. Maybe you've been thinking, what do I get Mom? She loves college baseball. She loves Mississippi State. She loves to read. Well, I can help you. Go to dogpilethebook.com. That's DAWG, pilethebook.com. And you can get signed and personalized copies of Flim Flam, Alpha Dogs, Dark Villains, or Dogpile. And if you're looking for Bloomsville Leander, you find it on Amazon, booksmillion.com, or your local bookstore can order it for you as well. Stark Villains gear always available at starkvillains.com. I saw my buddy Jason recently got a shirt. Very proud of him to rep the brand. Be sure and take care of that for yourself. When you're looking for shirts, look for starkvillains.com. And real quickly, too, the barbecue baseball thing, be sure and check those guys out, too. We start thinking about Father's Day. A lot of great gifts out there, but get something with the M over S on it. That is officially licensed merchandise. It's on my Twitter feed and on all forms of social media. Be sure and check that out. That's it for today, man. We'll see you guys on Friday, and hopefully we're talking about a big Bulldog win on Thursday and then the opportunity for us to take a series on Friday. I feel good about it. I don't feel great about it. I don't feel really good about it. I just feel somewhat positive. Let's just say that. And I think the tone setter for this week is going to happen on Thursday. And I think if Preston can go back and replicate what we saw last week against a lineup, it's not quite as potent. I think you got a really good chance there. All right, until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
The mystery sale is back at JCPenney. Hurry in store for our coupon giveaway. You could score an extra 30, 40, or even 50% off. That's instant savings on top of already great prices, like tees for the fam starting at $9.99 and Home Expressions bath towels only $4.99. Plus, extended store hours Friday and Saturday. Surprise! Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers good on select styles through 4/16. Exclusions apply. Giveaway in store only while supplies last. Must be 18 or older. See store or jcp.com for details.